I think that I am like a lot of people, probably you. I've made way too many excuses in my life. I've made way too many excuses in my life. And excuses are really satisfying because they take any kind of blame for your situation, for your results, for where you're at, for where you wanted to be, but you're not there yet, for your failures. And they take that responsibility and they push it out into the world onto someone or something else. And so they're super satisfying because you don't have to look inside. You don't have to be any better. I don't have to be any better. If I make an excuse for why I didn't get what I wanted, I don't have to be a better person. But I can't live a better life if I'm living my life full of excuses. And I don't know, like I just had, sometimes you just hear things in your mind, and whatever the source of it is, I like to think of it as source, like capital S, right? And source may have a lot of different names, but it's something bigger than just my ego or just my logical mind speaking. And I heard this message from source, no more excuses. And then I was listening to a podcast and somebody was talking about excuses and, no excuses, whatever. And I just had this recognition that there are excuses and there are obstacles. And it's important to know the difference. So with that, let's dive into my notes for today's episode. And I want to start by talking about the Spartan Death Race. Now, I'm not going to share video or anything of that, but basically it's this 24-hour or more race that is like pushes the most athletic, most capable people to their limits. It will push you to your limits physically and mentally if you choose to compete in this. It's this extreme race, this extreme obstacle course that you go through. And people choose to do this and they pay for the privilege. They pay $450 a person is what the next one is going to cost. And you're committing to this like extreme, it's not just an ultra marathon, it's like carrying things, it's carrying heavy things, it's going over all of these obstacles, going through incredibly difficult and physically taxing situations where you are having to overcome hurdle after hurdle, obstacle after obstacle, and people choose to do it, right? People choose to do it. So I want you to remember that because we're going to come back to that at the end. The world is like that Spartan Death Race in the sense that, it might kill you just being out in the world, but also that it's full of obstacles. Your life hopefully is a very long journey, and your life is full of obstacles. But you are full of excuses. The world is full of obstacles, but you are full of excuses. This is the difference. Obstacles are those external things that are outside of us. Obstacles aren't inside of us. Obstacles are external. At least it helps me to think of this as this is the differentiation here, right? This is how you can use this idea in the most beneficial way, the most growth-oriented way. Obstacles are all those external things that we face that present challenges to whatever we want to achieve, whether it's better health or better relationships or better finances, better business growth, all of that. There are going to be a ton of obstacles that we face. And the bigger journey we want to go on, the more obstacles that we're going to run into along the way. So if you want to just live your life at this doing the same work every single day, doing like manufacturing assembly or doing really simple like widget type labor, right? You're not going to face a ton of obstacles. And that's often why those jobs are not paid very well, because they don't require the fortitude to be able to overcome obstacles. But if you want to build $1 million business, if you want to build a 10 million, $100 million, if you want to build $1 billion business, you're going to be facing huge obstacles. You're going to be facing huge obstacles out there in the world. But then you make a decision if you're going to make excuses. And here's a little hint. You're not going to go on big journeys if you make an excuse out of an obstacle. Because excuses are internal. They're the stories that we tell ourselves about those obstacles out in the world. And importantly, they're the stories that we tell ourselves as to why we can't go on the journey that we want to go on, why we can't have the life that we want to live, right? And so the world is full of obstacles, and I am not going to deny that your life, wherever you come from, whoever you are, your life is full of obstacles. So is mine. So is mine. Different obstacles. We'll talk about that in a second. But all of our lives are full of obstacles to what we want to achieve. The question is, do you internalize that obstacle? Do you deal with that obstacle out in this world out here? Or do you internalize the obstacle and turn it into a story as to why you need to fail, why you will fail, why you are failing, why you have failed, why you can't go on the journey that you want to go on, why you can't live the life that you want to live? So each of our lives are full of unique obstacles. We're not talking about excuses here. We're talking about obstacles, external things, right? The place that we're born. It is an obstacle, right? By the way, all of our lives are also full of unique advantages. Every single one of us has a life full of unique advantages, as well as unique obstacles. So if you want to talk about privilege, yes, my life is full of a certain type of privilege. Your life is full of a certain type of privilege. Other people's lives are full of certain types of privileges. And all of our lives are full of unique kinds of obstacles, certain kinds of obstacles. So where you're born, it creates obstacles for you. It creates privileges too. The time that you're born, right? Being born now versus being born 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, right? Even being born now versus being born in 1982 when I was born, right? The time of birth creates unique obstacles, creates unique advantages, right? Yes, absolutely. Your race, right? What people see you as from the outside based on things like the color of your skin, the color of your hair, the shape of your body, right? Your gender, right? What gender you are. There are unique obstacles associated with that, right? Your cultural background. Whatever culture you come from, there are obstacles. There's advantages and there are obstacles, right? Your family is full of obstacles for you, also full of advantages for you. Your access to resources, right? So my life being born I was born in Milwaukee. I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, spent a lot of time in Nebraska. And I lived in a middle-class family, college graduates, all of that, white skin, male, like all of those things have provided a lot of unique advantages, right? They've also provided certain obstacles. And it's about recognizing that all of our lives are full of these unique obstacles and advantages. And then there's all sorts of context, right? So those are like life circumstances, right? But then there's the context of socio-political events. What's going on with politics? What's going on with society at large, right? What's going on in the economy? What's going on in your current location, in your community, right? Those are things that impact you. They create obstacles. They also create advantages. So, one example of just the whole community thing, I live in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's in the middle of the country. It's a college town. It's not very big. If I want to go hang out with direct marketers, there's not a lot of people around town for that, right? I have to go to a different place. I could go live in a different place that would give me access to more, let's say, marketing peers, right? And at the same time, Lincoln, Nebraska has advantages for me that I really appreciate. It has a very stable economy. It has a great cost of living. It's I like certain aspects of the culture. Like there's lots of great things about it, right? So there's obstacles and advantages in where I'm at and where you're at, right? Your social circle gives you obstacles, gives you advantages. The weather, right? It's a drizzly day outside. It's a very cool day outside here in Nebraska. And the weather provides certain obstacles. Like if I was thinking about fitness, it's not necessarily a day that I want to go ride my bike around the lake. There's a lake close to my house that I like to ride my bike around. There's a nice path around it, right? It's not a day that I would want to do that, but I went to the gym. I lifted weights, right? Your health. You're going to have unique health obstacles in your life if you haven't yet. And there are going to be moments where your health feels like a big obstacle, right? Lots of obstacles, okay? All of these things are external obstacles, right? They are things that happen to you, things that are your situation that you ended up through just sheer luck or lack of luck, depending on how you perceive it, right? There are unique obstacles and unique advantages in each one. The question is, will you turn your obstacles into excuses? So all of those obstacles that I listed, and you could probably think of 1,000 more, right? All of those obstacles that I listed, are you going to let them become excuses? My oldest son played hockey this season. It was very exciting. I grew up playing hockey, so I volunteered. I was the assistant coach. And it was his first year. And, you know, we had a pretty good season, an okay season. I don't know. We lost a lot of games. We won a lot of games. It wasn't outstanding, right? But we grew a lot as a team throughout the season, and we worked hard on all of the different skills that it would take to play well together. And then we got to the end of season tournament. And that was like a week and a half ago or so. And well, we just came together as a team for the end of season tournament. Like they played so well, the best they played all season, by like 20%. And they were winning and winning and winning, like 1 by 5 points, 1 by 4 points. And then it was like the Saturday night game. And we showed up and it was the last game and it started late. And the new electric Zamboni that the facility had to clean the ice between games, the battery was actually too low for them to be able to Zamboni the ice before our game. So they were skating on snow, not ice. And it was just bad ice, right? And I'll put the dirty play by opponents before I talk about the bad officiating. We were playing a team that kind of had a reputation of playing dirty. And in fact, one of their players had gotten removed from the previous game for penalties, but also he was kind of like, he was actually making a bunch of excuses for his dirty play as he was walking. I walked past him walking down the hallway after he got kicked out of the game. And was saying some pretty nasty things. And then, you know, there's officiating that's missing the dirty play by the opponents where they're, you know, slashing. There was actually a slash where somebody brings down their stick on the other player, and they hit one of our players' sticks and broke the stick, and the officials didn't call it, right? And so all of those are obstacles to success in that game, right? But as I was talking to the players on the bench, I was saying you have to play the game in front of you. Yes, the ice is terrible. The other team is playing dirty. The officials aren't catching everything, but you have to play the game in front of you, and you just play and you put the puck in the net, right? And you can't turn all of these obstacles into excuses. You just have to go out there and play. And they won another game. And it actually put them at the top of their bracket. It put them into the championship game. And they won that. And every single game, they won by a minimum of 4 points, which is a lot for hockey. And it's because no matter what obstacles the weekend threw at us, they never became excuses. They just became something to overcome as we played the game in front of us, and the team played so well together and won the championship. And it was freaking awesome. And I was so proud of them, right? And you could be like that other player who, as he was getting kicked out of the game and walking down the hallway, finding someone or something to blame, right? You can always find someone or something to blame. Look at what politicians do. They're certainly pointing the finger across the aisle at the other side, right? Or pointing it at like whoever else, right? It's easy to find someone or something to blame. But the thing is, that makes you the victim. It makes you the victim of circumstance. It makes you the victim of life. It makes you the victim of everybody else, right? And this is all about the story that you tell, right? If you're making excuses, you're not actually able to like tackle the obstacles that are in front of you. You're just spending your life making excuses and turning yourself into a victim when really all of that is going on inside your head. Yes, there are obstacles. Yes, they will tear you down. Yes, they will be difficult, right? But are you going to get back up? Are you going to play the game in front of you? Are you going to deal with this obstacle and the next one and the next one and the next one? And if you want to develop unlimited personal power, with a hat tip to, Tony Robbins for that language, not like he was the first one, but if you want to develop unlimited personal power, you really you can recognize all those obstacles in your life, but you can't make excuses. You can't internalize the obstacles that are out there. You have to take personal responsibility for how you're tackling this obstacle course in front of you, right? How you're tackling the obstacle course of life. And I really love just, going back into politics for just a second here. My great grandmother's cousin was Harry Truman, and he actually lived with her for a little bit. And on his desk, when he was the president of the United States, he had a little plaque, and that plaque said, "The buck stops here." And that's not a reference to dollars, even though those are called bucks. It's a saying from poker, where a buck knife was used to pass around where the bet was, right? And the buck, right? The buck stops here became the saying of personal responsibility. And what he was saying is that as the president of the United States, the ultimate responsibility, and this was someone who took the office during World War II, during some of the darkest days of humanity, took the office of the president of the United States, where the responsibility for the free world was just maybe greater than it's ever been, right? He had to make some really freaking hard decisions too in that role. But he didn't push it off. He didn't make excuses. He didn't turn himself into a victim. He said, "The buck stops here." And with that, he embraced this personal power, right? He embraced that, okay, there are going to be obstacles, right? He had to deal with Hitler as an obstacle. He had to deal with Imperial Japan as an obstacle. He had to deal with the axis of evil as an obstacle. And he chose not to turn them into excuses, right? And we're all going to deal with our own unique, very difficult obstacles, right? But we can't turn them into excuses. Not if we want to maintain power over our life. So my call to action for you at the end of this episode is ask yourself, what excuses are you making about the obstacles that stand in your way? Those obstacles are completely legitimate, right? I'm sure that there are actual obstacles in your life. How are you turning them into excuses? And how can you choose to separate yourself from that story that you've told yourself that turns the obstacle into an excuse? And instead, embrace the obstacle course of life. Remember that Spartan Death Race that people actually pay $450 to spend 24 hours going through grueling physical obstacles, right? How can you use this to embrace the idea of yeah, there's going to be obstacles in my life and I'm going to make it to the other side, right? And if you like this content, I don't always talk about this exact type of content. I often talk about marketing and copywriting and business building and all that good stuff, right? But this is part of what I talk about, and this is part of where my great marketing comes from, right? So you can like and subscribe so you can get more content like this delivered to you. And if you do want to go deeper into how to rewrite the stories and how to really work with your subconscious mind to get it working in your favor as you tackle the obstacles of life and let go of excuses, I have the Training Your Subconscious Success Mechanism training that's part of my BTMSinsiders training library. I'll include links in the description for you to check those out. I'm Roy Furr. This is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. And, whatever obstacles there are in front of you, go out and bust them down, break through them, overcome them. And I look forward to seeing you on the other side in your even bigger, better, greater life. Thank you once again for tuning in to this daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Remember, check out the links with this episode for even more value. Now make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and engage in every way you can to keep this show going and growing and delivering daily value to you. I'll catch you soon for your next big breakthrough.